Today on With the First Pick, here at the Senior Bowl, day 2 in Mobile, Alabama. We'll tell you which quarterbacks popped and maybe even dropped. We'll talk about some non-quarterbacks who popped and dropped. And we'll do some just good football players / fine young men. Me, Ryan Wilson, joined, of course, by Rick Spielman. He's back on the show, producer Debo. What are the chances? Rick, before we get going, give your disclaimer.
Everything that I'm about to say from this day's practice has no reflection on what the Washington Commanders think or will do during the 2024 NFL Draft. Was that a good disclaimer?
No, that's right. Just so
Okay.
we're clear, Rick has made that disclaimer in previous podcast appearances. You would imagine the Commanders will be wrapping things up eventually with this head coaching search, and then Rick will be back full-time, and or more frequently. You're already full-time. But here we are, Rick, Mobile, Alabama. Day 2 for me, day 1 for you. Got in last night. What were your initial impressions on another sunny day here at Hancock Whitney Stadium?
Yeah, no, the initial impressions was I appreciate Debo sending the With the First Pick private jet to get me here on time so I could be here for today's practice and comment a little bit. But I thought just overall in general, I thought the quarterback group was much better than the quarterback group here last year. There are a lot of guys with some natural talent that I was very impressed with. The receiver group and the DB group also impressed me, as well as some of these offensive linemen that I think we're going to talk about shortly. But overall, if you look at the roster and you look at least what I saw today, which was my first exposure, I thought this was a more talented class than we saw last year at this time.
No, I agree with that. And quickly, I actually quizzed you when we were watching practice about last year's QB class, and the old memory bank still works there. You got Clayton Tune, Tyson Bagent, Jake Hayner, Jaron Hall, and Max Duggan were the quarterbacks here last year, and we were trying to find things to like about those players. One went in round 3, I think. The rest were either day 3 or undrafted in Tyson Bagent's case. And we've talked about Tyson Bagent. Lee J and I talked about him yesterday, and we talked about him a little bit last week in terms of you can't let this be the ultimate determinant of whether you're going to be good or not. But he struggled here last year. This year, it's a completely different story. So let's talk about the quarterbacks. In the first group, one team is Sam Hartman, Michael Penix Jr., and Bo Nix. And let's start there, and I'll ask you this. This is the question I asked Lee J yesterday. How important is it that Jim Nagy, the director, put Bo Nix and Michael Penix on the same team so you can see those reps back-to-back?
Yeah, and that's why they do that. They don't divide, especially the quarterback position. Jim Nagy does a phenomenal job of trying to accommodate the scouts. So if Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. are battling for a spot on who could potentially go in the first round, or teams want to see these two stacked together, as an evaluator, you get more from watching practice when you see them throwing back-to-back than you do if they were on opposite teams for the game. So the most important part of this whole process is these players competing during practice. The game, everybody will go back to the office. They don't stay for the game, watch the game on tape, see if anything clear.
I'll be here at the game.
Oh, yeah, you'll be here at the game just because you get to go to the Super Bowl. So some of us have to go home, but that's a whole other story. So anyway, but the most important part is the one-on-one drills, and for the scouts and the coaches and everybody here as talent evaluators, getting to see these guys perform one last time in pads before you get into the pre-draft T-shirt and short part of the process.
You talked about it all last spring during our Pro Day tour, how important it is to see these players in person. I told you early on when I think this is the national team was warming up, Michael Penix Jr. I said, take a look at his hands. It looks like E.T. His hands are so long, 10 inches and 3/8, which is, if you don't know, that's enormous for anyone's hands, much less quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett had sub-9 hands, and that was a concern. Joe Burrow had around 9-inch hands. That was considered too small. Obviously, it doesn't necessarily determine whether he can be a good quarterback or not. I said it earlier today in HQ and yesterday with Lee J. I thought this quarterback class has looked pretty crisp. I haven't had a lot of things I can point to and say, oh, that's clearly a concern. The inaccuracy is showing itself. The indecision making is making itself known. I haven't had any of those issues. Anything you stand out in day 1 of practice for you?
Yeah, no. Well, day 2 of practice for me. My day 1, your day 2. But I thought, just in general, like we talked about earlier, this quarterback class is way more talented just on what I've seen. You do all this evaluation that we've done during the fall. You watch all the tape, but it's great to come out and verify what you've seen on tape. one of the things that really stuck out to me on Michael Penix Jr., even though he had some misses, is just the natural arm talent and how easy the ball comes off of his, as you put it, ET hands, which I've never heard before. But
just came to me.
Yeah, that's a great scouting term.
There
Yeah.
you go. You're welcome.
Boy, let me write that down.
Yeah, make a note. I'll text it to you.
But Bo Nix, I think, was impressive. I still have some issues on him. Sorry, that's Michael Penix Jr.
No, Bo Nix. I just saw your watch. Didn't like what you're about to say.
So, but
what are your issues with Bo Nix? Because I think he's been.
I think he's athletic. I think he has enough arm talent. I just want to see him have to process from the pocket. I think he can make plays off schedule and outside the pocket. I just want to see him, if he has to sit there, read, and get through his progressions, how quickly he can do that.
Okay.
So the guy that probably was a drop for me today was Sam Hartman, the receiver or the quarterback from Notre Dame.
Can I tell you why for people listening before you tell us why?
Okay.
Because I said to you while they were taking a break, I said, look at Sam Hartman out there talking to some of the media members. Are you jealous that his tastes better than your hair? And you immediately you took out your red pen and started making marks next to his name. So go ahead, tell us why you put him as a drop today.
Okay, well, let's see when he gets my age if he still has hair. And
There
we'll
it
go
is.
from there, because some people do not have hair.
How dare you,
and
sir.
they're actually younger than me. So,
all right, sorry I brought it up. Go ahead, tell us really why he's
I
a
just
drop.
think when you watch Bo Nix, the ball come out of his hands, when you watch Michael Penix Jr. and the ball come out of his hands, I just didn't see that same zip coming out of Hartman's.
But we knew that coming in, though, right?
But it just verified it just there watching. And the one thing I know is that he is a touch, timing, and rhythm thrower.
Yeah.
And when you haven't worked with this group of receivers or this group of tight ends, sometimes that touch and timing is going to look a little off until you get that rhythm. But as far as comparing him to the other two, I thought he was behind those guys and what I saw today.
No, I agree with that. I thought he actually showed some touch on the deep balls and the one-on-ones with the receivers and the DBs. But again, I don't know how much stock you can put into that. New receivers, new system, a few handful of practices you're trying to sort through. But it didn't strike me that he was out of place. You didn't think that?
No,
either.
He's not out of place. I'm just saying you got two pretty good quarterbacks on the same team, and when you're, like I said earlier, you're evaluating and you're doing Penix Jr. and you're doing Bo Nix, and then you got Hartman behind him.
Right. So in terms of last year's draft class, would you take Hartman over Aiden O'Connell, or where does he? I
think he's right in that range because right. Aiden O'Connell was a touch timing thrower, and even when you watched him and played pretty good for the Las Vegas Raiders as a rookie, he's not a great athlete. I thought Sam Hartman was a little bit better mover, but I wouldn't put him in a class of defensive coordinators who are going to be up at night, trying to make sure that he doesn't beat them with their legs at the next level. But similar traits as far as arm strength, as far as being that touch timing rhythm type thrower.
Yeah, and he actually showed a little athleticism here that we saw at Notre Dame this season, but not maybe as frequently as he would have liked anyway. All right, let's go to the other side and talk about those quarterbacks. I mean, this group, I don't want to say they're getting second shrift because everything's about Penix and Nix, but Spencer Rattler, Michael Pratt, Joe Milton III, and Carl Bradley, who's Gus Bradley's son, South Alabama quarterback. All these guys can sling it.
Yeah, they all were impressive today, and I haven't seen Coach Bradley's son on tape, and I was very impressed with the way the ball came off of his hand today, and some of the accuracy in the one-on-one and some of the 7-on-7 drills that we've seen. I thought all the quarterbacks on this side, there's no question about the arm talent. Spencer Rattler, me and you having a disagreement. You want to draft him in the top 10. I would draft him in the bottom 10 of the. No, I'm just kidding.
Is he a day two guy for you? Seriously?
I think this will be a big week for him
because he's only 6 feet,
right,
and change.
But I love the way the ball came out of his hands.
Yes,
and he does have the arm strength to make all the throws necessary at the NFL level. I just still question his decision processing.
No, that's fair.
And that's the one thing that I think down here yesterday. I read, and you told me that he threw an interception.
The team drills,
and he took care of the ball better today. But there's something you can't turn the ball over at the next level, and that is one thing that I think has held him back from maybe creeping up into top 4 or 5 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, arm talent he probably is, but the other part of the process, and I don't know. We haven't interviewed him. I don't know what's going on in the interviews at night. Why he's making some of those decisions that he makes on college tape, but I'm sure teams are trying to get to the bottom of it.
I had to guess, it's because the offensive line stunk and there's one player he could throw the ball to. And it was that or nothing. And you're playing in the SEC and you're outmanned. That'd be my answer if I'm him.
Yeah.
What do you say to that? If that's what I tell you.
Are you his agent?
No, if I'm in the interview,
Then,
I'm
okay, then you're making excuses. So
we talked about Michael Pratt in the fall. I think we just as a quarterback we were going to go over, and we liked him but didn't love him. I get a different sense of who he is. Maybe he's healthier. He had some injuries he dealt with early in the year, missed some games. He's looked pretty sharp.
Yeah, no, he's had a good, at least today, what I saw live. His arm was better than I anticipated.
Yeah, for sure.
He does come up, the ball comes off. He had some very good accuracy on some of the throws he made. So I thought he looked better in person than what I seen on college tape earlier this year.
And finally, Joe Milton, who we haven't really talked about, and I think that might be a good thing in the same way when you don't talk about the refs, that's a good thing during the game. The ball hasn't been misfiring, which is one of the things that plagued him in his college career. The arm strength is through the roof. Yesterday at practice, the Senior Bowl timed him at 76 miles an hour throwing the football, which is bonkers. That's a Little League World Series fastball. That's how hard that thing is. Do you feel better about where he is in his pre-draft journey?
Well, I got an opportunity to see him play live versus Alabama this year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I think he was underrated as an athlete. There's no question about the size. I think the arm talent is he probably has the biggest cannon, hose, whatever you want to term, strongest arm. I don't know about his touch and timing at times.
Yeah.
And even when I watched him live and I seen some of it in today's team period, there's just some hesitation in his C to do on trying to process through the coverages he's trying to read.
And unlike Anthony Richardson a year ago, he'd only started 13 games or whatever that number ended up being when he left Florida. Joe Milton's been around the block. He's at Michigan. Then he transferred to Tennessee. So he's played some football games. So that's, I would imagine, also part of the evaluation process that he's not chicken when it comes to college football games.
No. And he has, like I said, he's bounced around but if you're trying to say that he's the same athlete that Anthony
No, just in terms
Richardson
of the big arm but one is long on experience, one is short on college experience.
Yeah, but how many games has he started? I'm asking.
I don't know.
So,
if you'd asked me before the podcast, I'd looked it up.
I mean, he started this year at Tennessee, but
yeah.
He hasn't been a starter through his career, has he?
No, that's why he left Michigan. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think he's just a one-year guy as well.
Okay, so you'll cut him a break, even though he's 3 or 4 years older, or however much older he is than Anthony Richardson.
Right. Yeah. And the reason is, I think, as evaluators, we used to be concerned when they became 24, 25 years old.
Right.
At the quarterback position, because then it's like, by the time they develop, they're going to be 28, 29 years old. Well, with the new rules in the NFL, with the safety rules on how they protect the quarterback, these guys are playing a lot longer. You're seeing guys not even hit their peak sometimes in the early 30s and playing at a high level into the late 30s. So I don't think it is a big of issue as maybe it was 7-8 years ago.
Debo on the spot, 21 college starts for Joe Milton. So not a ton.
No.
A handful more than.
Is Debo not allowed to talk to me either? That's why he's communicating with you and I don't have a headset on today?
He specifically asked that he didn't want to talk to you. He's mad at you for not being back full time. But that's coming. Don't fret. All right, so those are the quarterbacks on both sides. We'll take a quick break when we come back. Talk about some non-QB popper drops right after this. All right, Rick. Break's over.
Oh.
Yeah, you're not PJ in your life all over the globe right now. We're doing podcasting. All right, so let's talk about some non-quarterbacks, popper drop wise. You want to go first with a pop?
Go ahead. I'll follow your lead since I'm just kind of in limbo right now. So like I said, I'm trying to get back to being that scout in the corner for you to give you some opinion. So you're the GM, take the lead, and I'll try to correct you as you go along.
That's how it goes. All right, let's go with Marcus Rosemy Jack Saint.
Oh, don't talk about my guy.
Oh, he's your guy. Is he on your list?
He was on my list originally. You didn't even know who the heck he was when we did
I had dinner
preview of the Senior Bowl.
Had dinner with his agent last night, but okay.
Well, yeah, now because I led you on to him.
Actually, that Emory knew him, and I just happened to stop by. But you're right. I watched him after you had seen him. He had 0 drops last fall, and He actually had a drop today, and you heard him yell and scream. He wasn't happy about it. It was a tough catch on the sidelines. He didn't make it, but he clearly thought he should have. And I call him the other Georgia wide receiver, which is unfair to him because Ladd McConkey is the one that everyone probably knows. But as I mentioned, no drops. He's smooth. He's bigger than perhaps he looks like on tape. And he had a good day yesterday, and I thought he had a good day today. It's one of those situations where he comes here. Here am I. In terms of him climbing up draft boards, I'm laughing because I'm going to throw out a guy that had a great rookie season that you don't like to talk about. Just like when Michael Wilson came here last year out of Stanford and improved his draft stock. Remember that?
Puka Nacua, go ahead.
I forgot about Puka. That's right. That was a layup. I went with the topper one in Michael.
But you remember on our last podcast that I was allowed to do?
Yeah. You talked about him.
I know, but who do I make? Who was my comparison?
Oh, that I don't remember. Who'd you say?
Wicks from Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
Year.
That's right. You think he's a little faster?
I think he's faster, but he's smooth like that with a little better speed, but that upper body flexibility,
right?
His ability to torque and to adjust to off-schedule throws. And then when I watched him on tape at Georgia, he has some shake to him and some wiggle after the catch. And when he opens stride, he's going to be faster than I think most people are going to give him credit for.
Yeah, he was fun to watch after you talked about him initially as I was trying to get through all these Senior Bowl guys. And then to think about that was an underrated wide receiver crew. Him and Ladd McConkey and then Brock Bowers when he was healthy. That team probably should have scored more points.
Yeah, well, and then the quarterback's going to be pretty good.
He
got better as the season went
on. He did,
along.
Absolutely. I'm glad he came back. So we'll have someone to talk about next fall. All right, now do you have a pop for us?
Yeah, one of the pops that I had at the receiver position was Pearsall.
Ricky Pearsall out of Florida, yeah.
And I watched him coming down, and when I watched him in person, he's lean, but he is long. I think you underestimate his speed because people may knock him that he's not fast, but he plays to probably what he's going to time. And the one thing that really stuck out to me was how crafty and savvy he is as a route runner. So if he's trying to get deep, he may not run 4.3, but the little shake, the little ability to get a DB back on his heels or to get him off balance just for that second, and then to him accelerate out of a cut or to accelerate by the DB out of the turn, and he has great hands. So I didn't see him have any drops, and I thought what I saw on tape even verified that more, that he's going to be a really, really good player in the NFL.
4 or 5 over under?
I'm going to go under.
Okay, because I thought when I watched him on tape that he struggled to separate on the vertical routes.
Well, that's a dollar bet. I can't talk to Debo since I'm not allowed to talk to him. So if you can relate that to him, then it'd make that a dollar bet.
He can hear you. You just can't talk to him. So you can say what you want.
Debo, can you hear me?
Oh, jeez. Someone drove off the road listening to you bang on the microphone. All right. Yeah. No, Ricky Pearsall has had a good 2 days for sure. And he was had a really strong college career. Another one of the many transfers from Arizona State where Jaden Daniels was, and also Johnny Wilson played there as well. We'll talk about him in a second. All right. Do you have another pop? Because I just have one pop and one drop.
Yeah. No, I have another pop that I liked him, and he would probably have fit into my just good football player category. And I don't know if that's the same thing as your fine young man. I still don't know what that means. And we've been together for about 2 years now.
You know what a fine young man is.
Just a good football player was Sanat from the tight end.
Yeah, Ben.
Kansas State.
Absolutely.
And Ben did a phenomenal job catching the ball. I think he was very good route running. But the thing that impressed me, even though he's a little undersized as a tight end, is that he was giving great effort as a blocker today. And a couple times during the team period, I just saw him latch onto some linebackers at second level and try to finish. So I thought that he was probably the best tight end I saw, just of my observation coming out of today's practice.
So you're going to hate this because this tight end was actually much bigger, but when I think about him in my mind, he wasn't this big. My comp for him, hold on to your.
I got my squeeze ball.
There you go. Dallas Clark, in terms of a receiver.
I'm not going to hate it.
Oh,
I'm not going to love it.
Because Dallas Clark actually was 260 coming out, which seems big to me. Did you remember him being that big?
No.
Yeah. And I had like a day 2 grade on Senate, like maybe third roundish, mid to late. We'll see what happens.
I don't think he is in Laporta category as far as athletically speed, but similar type football player, just is not as athletic.
Yeah. Okay.
because he can make plays in a passing game. He can block in a running game. He's just not as big or as athletic as Laporta was.
And the lesson that you learn from Laporta is that you got to make sure you account for the offense and the quarterback, because it could look completely different when you get to an offense like the Lions, when you're coming from an Iowa offense that is still at times stuck in the 50s, it feels like. And Will Howard, who was the quarterback at Kansas State, now going to be at Ohio State. So we'll see how that plays out for an Ohio State team that appears to be going all in for the national title. Any other pops? Because I got to drop.
Yeah, are we still doing offense, or can I give him another? Or
We're just doing offense. I'm going to do a defensive, offensive drop in, unless you have another one.
Yeah, no, I would say I will give you the floor right now.
I'm going to go with Tez Walker out of UNC.
Yep, I agree 100%.
Drop. From the one-on-one drills, he had drops, to the 7-on-7s, to the team drills. It just seemed to plague him throughout the day. And I was going to ask you this as an evaluator: when you see that, I'd imagine you're going to bring it up at the next time you interview him. What are you going to ask him? And then what are your initial thoughts when you see that and the drops just keep coming?
Well, the issue this year was, when you were watching Drake May, he wasn't playing, I don't believe, the first 6 games.
And let me, just for people listening, the UNC wide receiver who didn't play the first 2 games because of NCAA sanctions.
Right. So all of a sudden he came back. When you watch the tape on him, he looked athletic. He looked like he can catch and catches away from his body. Looks like he has some athleticism and speed after the catch. But down here, I was very shocked at how poor his hands were and how many drops he has had, because you can see the route running ability. You can see the athleticism for his size, but he hasn't been able to catch the ball consistently in any of the drills that I watched today. So, yes, that is a concern. That's something that, as he goes through the interviews down here, is, did you forget to check your hands on your bag when you came to report?
And that's probably exactly the question you would ask and how you would ask it, right?
You know what? I'm just thinking back. We were saying, like, this was the only day I seen him, so I don't know how he caught yesterday, and hopefully
yesterday was not bad. Yeah,
he'll rebound tomorrow. For whatever reason, he had to drop C's today. But we thought the same thing of Musgrave last year when he was down here. Remember, he missed most of the season with injuries at Oregon State, the tight end that eventually got drafted by the Green Bay Packers, and had a good season. And one of his best traits coming out of college was his receiving skills. But I remember one day down here, it really stood out how many drops he had, but then he kind of rebounded. So I hope the same thing happens with Tez.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because Luke Musgrave was routinely one of the fastest players here. They put it up on the screen, on the scoreboard throughout the day. Tez Walker was one of the fastest players here too, so maybe that bodes well for him. He's going the Luke Musgrave route. But right, you want to see him bounce back, and I would imagine more than anything it was mental. But it's one of those things in the back of your mind. Are you like, okay, this can snowball. If he has a drop in a game, it's going to be.
Well, this is where you get absolute opportunity to see his mental toughness.
That's true.
A lot of times when you're evaluating a player and he has a poor game, the next game that I was anxious to see is he able to shake that game off and come back and play his best game. So we're in a situation with Tez Walker right now that had a poor performance today. So I'm anxious to see how mentally tough he is, or how quickly he can shake off a bad practice to come back and have a really good practice tomorrow.
Right. So we'll find out together. All right. Debo wants us to talk about our quarterback standard of the day, or as I call it, fine young man. Who's the finest young man quarterback position for you today?
Does that mean, I don't know what that means. What's the definition of fine? Like the guy who was the best today?
Standout is what Debo wants to.
The standout?
Yeah. Okay. I think they all were pretty even, but did one stand out above the rest for you?
Boy, I'm going to say, just because I was surprised because I haven't had any exposure to him, was Bradley.
Carter Bradley,
yeah, Carter Bradley from South.
He doesn't look out of place here.
No, and I didn't know what to expect when I saw him on the roster, and I was pleasantly surprised, because you knew he had some background on all the other quarterbacks coming in, but he was a fine young man today when I watched him.
I watched him on the plane down a couple days ago, and the arm popped. He's a good athlete. That popped. The first game of the season was against a Power 5 school. I can't remember the team right now, but he had a bad interception towards the end. But you make those mistakes. I mean, if you want to talk about bad interceptions, I'm sure you could call up all of Spencer Rattlers, and that wouldn't affect the fact that I like him. But yeah, he fits right in here.
You know what popped into my head? I remember when Pat Shermer's son was here.
Yeah, from Vanderbilt. Kyle.
Vanderbilt. Yeah. Now, Kyle was not as athletic, but his arm was pretty talented and bounced around in the league. Was on a couple practice squads for a couple years. But I think Bradley was more impressive to me, but that was the first thing when you think of coach's sons. Who was the last coach's son that you remember that had exposure like this? And that was Pat Shermer's son.
Debo reminds me, Tulane was the first game that South Alabama played. They played Oklahoma State later in the season. I'm going to go back and watch that as well. But I would say, in terms of comparisons, it feels like Carter Bradley is not miles in terms of the way the first two practices went. Miles ahead of where Tyson Bagent was a year ago.
Yes, yeah.
Tyson looked out of sorts. Yeah,
he didn't look. First two practices, you're like, how did this get invited here?
Yeah,
but that's why when you have the opportunity to stay the whole week, even though they may start out, because when's the last time he's played? So
number one in the competition, number two.
Yeah, but then slowly they get better and get better through the week, and that's what you're trying to determine.
And again, he had a really good rookie season based on the expectations and the amount of playing time we thought he was going to get and the amount of playing time he actually got. All right. I'm going to go with Michael Pratt. That was Leger's guy yesterday. I think he continues to impress. I think Leger likes him as a second-round pick, and that may not be crazy.
Can I hear Debo through this thing?
So on one practice that you've seen, we know we've watched a little bit of Michael Pratt in the fall, and you have a pick on day two. Are you taking Michael Pratt or Spencer Rattler?
That's kind of like I hate to put myself in this analogy.
So choose your words carefully.
Yes. I can't say it, but I would trade out.
Jeez. I mean, I like both guys. Okay? Well,
and I may be wrong, right? I mean, I'm not perfect at this thing.
Let's see. I just got a text from Leger. He says, "How is Kobe Turner doing?"
Yeah,
yes, there it is.
Have him learn how to play the run.
Yeah. What'd you say about Puka? Let's see what he's doing in 5 years. Well, he did 5 years of production in 1 year. I think
so he's good.
He's good. I think Michael Pratt has. He's impressed me for sure. And I had questions about his mobility. That's not a question. I bet he was still recovering from the injury over the course of the fall, and the toughness is unquestioned. The decision making at times, the game we watched, he made some poor decisions, but every quarterback makes bad decisions. Just a matter of learning from those. So I think he's probably a day two guy for me. Second round might be a little rich. If it's him or Spencer, I actually might be leaning towards Michael Pratt at this point. But
no, you wouldn't.
Yeah, probably not. But anyway, he is my fine young man of the day, my standout of the day. All right, next up. Fine young men / standout of the day, non-quarterback offensive position.
Okay. Fine young men, and you're going to be, this is a pop and a drop all on the same day.
Oh, I don't even know how this works. Go ahead.
Could we do that, Debo? Can I pop and drop a guy in one day?
Yeah.
He gave the clearance. I'm sorry, I can't hear him through the mic.
Telepathically, he told me it's okay. Debo's asleep. Let's be real. He's catching up on some sleep.
Bullard, the safety Nick.
Javon Bullard from Georgia. Okay. How do you do?
When I watched him in the one-on-ones, I was like, this guy is not athletic as I thought he was on tape. This guy is getting run by receivers. He is not anything that I thought I saw on tape. Then all of a sudden, you put him in a team setting, and he popped. He was quick to read, quick to react, came up and made a couple nice, even though they don't tackle, couple nice hits on guys. And he's one of those guys that, if you want to call them fine young men, I just said just good football players, that you better be careful not to make your evaluation on what he does in some one-on-ones or what he's going to run at the combine. He's not Branch, but, people knock down Branch because of the 4.58.
Yep.
But some guys, and I think this guy fits into that category, are just good football players that may not be great athletes when they get isolated in one-on-one situations or asked to go work out in T-shirts and shorts. Do
you have a name off the top of your head of a guy who maybe didn't practice well, but when game time came, he was out there killing people?
I'm going to go way, way back to the 90s. There was a corner that we drafted in Detroit out of my area named Willie Big Play Clay.
Oh, yeah. Willie Clay played for the Steelers for a little bit. Yeah.
Played for us and the Steelers. Couldn't.
Oh, no. He played for the Patriots.
Yeah.
He played for the Patriots.
No, he didn't play for the Patriots. Have Debo look it up.
I
know he's with the Lions.
Yeah.
No, he played with us, but his name became Big Play Clay. Now, he couldn't. You asked him to do one-on-one stuff in practice, you're like cringing. And then if you ask him to go run, he's not going to run fast, but he just knows how to play the game of football.
Yeah, I remember Willie Big Play Clay. I think I'm going to go with the Patriots. I think he played for Bill Parcells' Patriots. That's going to be my final answer.
right.
I'll let Debo tell us in a second. All right, let's see what Debo says.
I'm listening.
The suspense is killing me, Debo. Lions, Patriots, Saints.
Okay.
I was wrong about the Steelers. Got the Patriots. Thank you, Debo. All right. My guy, fine young man, stand out on the offensive side of the ball. And this is a guy that's gotten some buzz in the weeks coming up to the Senior Bowl here, and he is only impressed thus far. In fact, our buddy Pete Prisco texted me and said, "I've watched this guy. He's going to be great." So that's the seal of approval this young man needs. The interior offensive lineman, Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon.
Oh yeah, that's a no-brainer.
But we weren't talking about him until like 2 weeks ago.
He was one of my guys that I brought up, and the guys you were excited to look at.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm glad you did that then.
do you pay attention to what I say on the podcast?
Half of it.
I'm just scouting the corner to you.
Well, the lesson you need to learn is that you can't come with all vinegar. You got to come with honey first, and then I'll hear that part, and then the vinegar, because I start tuning out when you start yelling at me. Yeah, he's played both center and guard here, and he feels like a guy you draft and you start for 10 years and you're fine.
He's 20 years old. He
Oh, my
played
gosh.
center in Oregon. He was the best combination, if you recall, of a guy that has size, that has athleticism, but actually can move people at the point as a center by himself in the run game. Very athletic with his feet, powerful, fine young man.
Thank you.
And I think, I saw him line up here at guard today, and he didn't miss a beat. So that gives you, as an evaluator, listen, I know this guy can come in and start day one at center. I think he can also come and start day one at guard for you. So, and the kid's only 20 years old, so he's only going to get better. But I thought he was the most impressive offensive lineman that I've seen down here coming in at that position.
Yep.
I said that I thought he was better than John Michael Schmitz last year, the Tippmann from Wisconsin last year.
I remember that part. That's who you were talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now I remember. Hey, you did say that. Look how frustrated he is. Did you miss me? By the way, speaking of being able to anchor incredibly well, Van Pran, the Georgia center, was invited, and he decided not to come this week, so we don't have a chance to watch him. Yeah, I know you don't like that.
I don't like that.
But one of the one-on-ones we were watching was Bo Limmer out of Arkansas, who's playing center against Tavondre Sweat in terms of anchoring. He had a tough rep. And look, man, I get it. You're going against a guy that looks like he probably weighs closer to 400 than 300, and you lost that rep. But it's one of those things where you're talking about the Powers Johnson, you get the sense that that's what he was built for.
Right. Yeah. And when we watched that one-on-one match, Sweat did, first one was kind of like a warm-up. The second one,
he was doing 135.
Yeah, against the Arkansas center.
Bo Limmer, yeah.
Yeah, Limmer. That was, okay, I just broke both of his legs and tore both of his ACLs because he just buckled him.
Yeah.
The third one, what impressed me even more with Sweat was he tried a power move, but then he did a quick swim move. And so now not only you see the power, but you see that, boy, this guy, for as big as he is, has a little bit of twitch and went right around him on a quick powered swim arm over move. So
let me ask you, why didn't we see that more consistently in Texas?
Because you don't know what they're asking him to do.
That's true.
They may ask him to read the run first, the two gap first, and then rush the passer. So
and let Byron Murphy do everything else.
Yeah. Those are the things that you're going to ask in the meetings. Those are the things that you're going to ask, and I'm sure the scouts that have gone down through there ask what is he asked to do on tape. And then now you see some of the stuff and some of the athleticism that you may not have saw at Texas. You're seeing it here.
Wait, so you gave me your was Javon Bullard your guy?
He was my pop drop.
Oh, okay, so you haven't done yet the offensive standout, correct?
Well, like I said, Pearsall was my.
All right. Here I have some other names you wrote down.
Yeah.
You want to do Leggett?
Leggett was good, but I wanted to throw a guy in that I was not sure of, but I think he solidified himself as a first rounder just off one day today.
Off the offensive side?
On the offensive side.
And let me guess, offensive tackle?
Yeah, from Oklahoma.
Okay, go ahead. Tyler Guyton. Leger liked him a lot yesterday.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect because I thought he was a little inconsistent when I watched the tape on him at right tackle. But this kid, his size kind of took back a little bit. I didn't realize he was this big and that he could move this fluid. And when where he's going to travel in a bucket with is Mims, the offensive tackle from Georgia. Well, Mims isn't here. This kid is here. So I think if he continues to go on, what at least he showed me in the one-on-ones today,
Yeah.
and even some of the stuff in the run blocking drills this kid is powerful. I think that this kid, if you have any questions on Mims versus Guyton, yeah, that Guyton's going to eventually pass him up here because of this week.
In part because he's here.
And yes, not that I'm biased.
I talked up to Javon Foster coming into the week. He had a couple tough reps that we watched, so hopefully he had a good day yesterday from what I saw. So
he's a tough kid. He just limited athletically. He is not a left tackle athlete.
And you said it last week, maybe right side, maybe inside?
Yes.
Okay. And also Jordan Morgan's here. We haven't we'll go back and watch him and come back.
Yeah, he was pretty smooth today. The other pass rusher from Missouri I thought popped out was Robinson today because they rushed him from the outside. And first rep we were watching Mizzou on Mizzou, and defensive Mizzou won.
Yeah, Robinson got over Foster.
Nice little.
They've got some dudes here. Rakestraw was invited, decided not to come. He's a really good corner. Chris Abrams-Strain is here. Every time I watch him, he's breaking up passes. He's gotten a little handsy and gotten some flags, but as you say, of all the things to worry about, that's pretty close to the bottom of the list. So Missouri, I mean, they were a good football team, and they certainly have some dudes.
But the Robinson kid actually went inside and surprised me a little bit.
Okay.
How quick twitch he was as an inside pass rusher. So he's showing the flexibility. I don't think he's going to be one of those pure speed Latu type athletes coming off the edge, which kind of showed up here a little bit today.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But Robinson has some flexibility to rush from multiple spots on the defensive side.
Speaking of Latu, I mean, we haven't even talked about him either day, just because it's just a checkbox when you watch Latu. How much credit do you give him as probably a top? He could be a top 15 pick medically if he clears.
If he clears medically.
How surprised are you, and how happy are you, I guess, that he's here competing?
Oh, he moves up in my book just because he's competing.
If he clears medically, is he top 15 for you?
Yes.
So I watched a couple of reps with the early team, the national team, and he went up against Rosegarten, the right tackle for Washington, who had a tough, you didn't have to go that far. He had a tough championship game with a couple penalties that brought some plays back, but I thought he's a pretty good player over the course of the fall. Versus Latu, there was no match. It was an unfair fight. We saw Fuaga go up against Nealon out of Western Michigan. That was a fun matchup. Fuaga is smooth.
Yeah, and the Western Michigan pass rusher kind of surprised me. I haven't done him.
Yeah.
He kind of popped out.
He's long and he is thick.
Yeah, and I don't think he is long.
You don't think so?
No.
I'll look up his numbers. Go ahead.
I think he's probably 6'2", 6'3", maybe 260.
Let's see what his
So I
numbers
think
are.
he's thicker than he is long. So I think you're wrong.
6'3", 268. 4-inch arms.
Thank you. You're welcome.
34-inch arms is.
Well, that's good. So it makes him maybe a little longer.
But he's not Will McDonald.
No. But he was impressive today. And another kid, I watched him before I got down here, was Booker, the defensive end that came out early out of Kansas.
Yep.
He needed to stay in school another year. But
you still think that?
Yes, I do, because I think he would have been first, second rounder next year with another year. But his athleticism and his length, he just needs to get stronger, and he needs to learn technique. One rep in one-on-one pass pro, and I do not remember who he went against. He went around him like you were watching Latu. Next one, he tried to make a move and jump inside, and the guy stoned him, and it just knocked him on his feet. So, but this kid has a lot of raw physical talent that I think teams are going to be on the day 3. Depending on who works out, maybe he slides at the bottom of the 3rd round. But this is a guy, Booker, to keep an eye on because of the athleticism and the natural ability.
So I'm looking at Nealon. My comp for him was Peyton Turner. Could be worse.
Okay, can I give you a Booker, the guy that we just talked about? Who?
Yeah,
you remind me a little of DJ Wanham.
Oh, your guy. See, I, once again, it's unfair because you literally did months of work on DJ Wanham, and you just throw that in my face. So, all right.
DJ Wanham we got in the 4th round for reference.
Yeah, and he's outplayed that, huh? That's a yes. All right. What do we got next here? So that's offense. You want to go defense, fine young men / standout for you? Or do you want me to go first?
I gave you the one, but he was a fine young / pop drop guy.
Yeah, that's a new one, but you gave something new there.
I give the guy that I was disappointed in the most. Can we do not fine young men?
Okay. Terrible young man, go ahead.
I'm sure he's a fine young man character-wise. but terrible young men.
He had a bad day too.
Bad day too.
Who's that?
King, the corner from Penn State.
He had a tough day one too.
Yeah,
because we talked about him over the summer.
He does not look as athletic as I saw. I really questioned his speed a couple of times. He got extended down the field. I just didn't see that second gear to catch up after he got out of his turn when he was extended. It also looked like at times he was going through the motions, which I didn't see, especially on his junior tape. It almost looked like what he looked like this year against Marvin Harrison Jr. in the Ohio State game. I just was expecting a lot more from a football player standpoint. I'm sure he's a fine young man, but as
it's a tough day today.
Yeah, he had a rough day today.
He's a tough 2 days so far. Hopefully, he can turn that around. But it is interesting because it feels almost like the pre-draft arc of Eli Ricks a little bit, and then the Georgia corner last year who ended up getting drafted in the 4th round. What was his name? Who also went to Philadelphia. He had a bunch of first-round buzz. Ringo, Keely Ringo.
Is my memory incredible?
Thank gosh for your memory, because I was struggling to remember that. I didn't want to have Debo. So he's still scarred from the 2023 Eagles season. But right, so because Keely Ringo was a first-round conversation, and then the more you watched and the process, and even though he ran well, like okay, it's the tape's not matching the expectations, and hopefully Kellen King can figure it out, because he did have good tape coming into the year.
Yeah,
it just didn't work out. You want to give a positive, or are you just going to be negative Nelly on the standouts part of the conversation?
You mean when we find another player?
I got one for you.
Okay, go ahead.
Michael Hall Jr.
Yeah, I know him already.
The interior defensive lineman from Ohio State. He's undersized. I think he weighed 280 here. Plays 3 tech and even further inside if you need him to. And in the one-on-ones, he was unstoppable.
Yeah. No, the quick twitch, the athleticism. The only thing I'm concerned about is if these bigger guards get their hands on him early in the pass rush down, does he have enough strength and power to counter, or is he going to get stalemated at the line of scrimmage? But today, that was not the case. He was back in the quarterback during team drills. I think he had a bad pass.
He had a bad thank you. He certainly did against Sam Hartman, I believe.
So there were a lot of things that really popped out. Do I think he is? Well, I shouldn't say that, because then Leger and you are going to team up with me on. Let me ask you this, okay? Wake Forest or Ohio State?
Well, I know what I know now. You'd have to go back in the future.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I like
back in the past, not the future.
Thank you. Right. I was thinking about Michael J. Fox. I like Kobe Turner until we got on the podcast and you made me feel bad about him. So Michael Hall's good. I think he wasn't as consistently explosive at Ohio State, but I think that's just because you have so many dudes you're rotating in and out of there, and that's what you have to figure out. He hardly played at all in 2022, which because again you have so many guys. I think they're both twitchy, and my question to you would be the one you have about Kobe. How is Michael Hall Jr. against the run?
Better.
Okay.
In college, at least what I've seen in college. So because I think he does play with some leverage, and I was surprised for a smaller guy that he can stack some of the Big Ten guards that he played against at the line of scrimmage. And he was quick to shed and disengage and find the ball.
Would you, if you have to pick one of these guys in day 2, would you take Michael Hall Jr. or T'Vondre Sweat?
It depends what you want.
Well, you want a run stuffer or you want a 3-down guy?
Yeah, what do you want?
A 3-down guy.
Okay, then you take Michael. It depends what you want.
Let me ask you, how big is Aleem McNeil? Does he compare to who compares to T'Vondre Sweat? What question I'm getting to? Because there are not a lot of guys like that.
No, those are rare. And in the trenches, big guys usually have big success if they have the high football character and things like that.
Well, he's had some success so far this week.
You're talking about Sweat, who's going to be on your defense on 1st and 2nd down, probably come out on 3rd downs, especially in pass rush situations, where Michael Hall will probably be more of a situational guy. Can give you some reps on 1st and 2nd down, but probably will see most of his time as a nickel inside pass rusher.
All right, I'll give you one more name if you don't have one for a standout on the defensive side of the ball, unless you got one you ready to fire.
No, go ahead. I don't want to hog the show.
Another guy you know quite well who's had 2 good days, Mr. Braswell, Chris Braswell, the Alabama edge rusher, and Will Anderson Jr. When I talked to him, because you were traveling back in October, November, he talked about Dallas Turner, but he said, don't forget about number 41, Christian Braswell, who is a really good football player. The more you watch of him, the more you like. He might have one of the highest motors in college football last season, and he's out here making an old name for himself early on.
For I wouldn't call him undersized, but for a guy that's, not the ideal frame for a typical defensive end, he plays with very heavy hands. And
Right.
he has a speed to power move that can collapse most offensive tackles, and he knows how to counter, and he knows where the quarterback is in the pocket. The only negative I had on him this year when I was watching him is that he sits there and he'll stack tight ends at the line of scrimmage. He'll stack offensive tackles at the line of scrimmage in the run game, but he was not as consistent getting off blocks and getting to the ball. Now, when he was free, he gave effort to go to the ball, but he was not as consistent as you would like to see versus run. But as a pass rusher, and I was at one of the games I talked to you live in Tennessee, he had some impact type pass rushes that helped turn that game around for Alabama in the second half.
Yep. He measured 6'3.5", 257 this week, 32 and 7/8, almost 33-inch arms. That's plenty. That checks all the boxes in terms of what you're looking for. Would you want him to gain weight? I feel like that's about the right weight.
No, teams are going to look at it because then it's like, okay, when we put weight on him, he's going to lose his explosiveness that he has.
All right. That's it, Rick. Went a little longer today because, as Steve noted, you have a lot to say. You had to make it for lost time. But that's Wednesdays. Day 2 practice for me. Day 1 for Rick. In the books here at the Senior Bowl, Mobile, Alabama. Thanks to all you guys who watch and listen and comment. And by the way, we've gotten several 5-star reviews of players to evaluate. A lot of these guys are here, so we'll circle back and get those guys. Keep those things coming. Apple Podcasts, FCS or FBS player who is draft eligible. Let us know, and we will talk about them. Otherwise, we will see you guys tomorrow right back here, Day 3 Senior Bowl.